And we're in.
It was weird, man. The title card stayed up there, and as our intro was playing, but nonetheless, we are live. It is Thursday. Welcome to the show. Thanks to everybody watching at Two Severed Heads on YouTube and Facebook, and of course, all our fans watching over on Ryan's All Things Geek Ratch TV. I am your host, the Metal Mennonite, and with me, as he is every week, is the man, the myth, the legend, the horror artist extraordinaire, Mr. Steve McGinnis. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing great. How you doing, man?
Yeah, man. We are a week out from Frightmare in the Falls.
Yes, I can't wait.
I know, right? Last convention of the season for me. I don't know if you got anything else planned.
Me too. But, this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to thank our guest last week, Teresa Navratova. I think I got that right this time. I apologize if I didn't, but you gave me the free pass. If you haven't seen Night Siren yet, go check it out, man. I think you can get it on POV right now. So it's an awesome movie, man.
It is so good, man. It's a art house heavy watch. I loved it.
Yes, it is. It was intense. We don't want to keep our guests waiting too long, but a couple things I need to talk about. We had our 12th annual Welland Zombie Walk last year. We raised over $6,500. So thank you to everybody that came out. We've been collecting for charity for about 8 years of the 12 now, and we're over just over $56,000 back into our community to food banks and Pets Alive Niagara, which is a great organization. So thank you to everybody that contributed to that. And if you weren't there, you missed it, man, because I got married. There was a zombie wedding, some great costumes there. You see me here in my zombie groom. There's my bride. We had the Raccoon City fire truck out. It was pretty awesome. Great turnout. My bride, she arrived in her hearse in classic zombie fashion, which was pretty awesome. Walking down the aisle to Rob Zombie's A House of 1,000 Corpses. Can't thank a friend of mine enough for the awesome cakes she made. Instead of exchanging rings, we exchanged hearts, which was pretty cool. They turned out so awesome. So thanks for that. And man, I mentioned Frightmare in the Falls. Steve's going to be there. You're at table 510, I believe.
Yeah, I got a double spot this year.
This is the big piece you got there that's going to be there with you. Of course, he's got prints as always and a couple of other things you've been working on here in the center here. So come out to Frightmare in the Falls next weekend, 3 days. Everybody's going to be there, man. Everybody's going to be there. I'll be there hosting panels. Steve will be there at his table. 510, you see him up there at the top.
Yeah, I'll be behind Dean and Dave.
Come out to Frightmare in the Falls. Come check out Steve's table. Come check out me. I'll be hosting panels. But man, we got a guest, and we don't want to keep him waiting any longer. Now that we got that all out of the way, welcome to the show, actor, musician, Mr. Courtney Gaines.
Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing?
Wow, you covered a lot of ground already. So first off, your opening cracked me up. I was laughing my ass off on that. But then we went to raising money. Good on you guys. Then we went to congratulations on the wedding. Man, you covered a lot of ground already. And then now Frightmare in the Falls. I didn't even know there was a Frightmare in Canada. So we've covered a lot of ground already. So I'm trying to keep up with you.
What is it, about 5th or 6th year now for Frightmare in the Falls, Steve?
It is, yeah. I think it's the 5th one now, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I would say right now, massive. It is the biggest one in Canada, the biggest horror show that is in Canada.
That's cool. I think I'm doing Oh no, I don't actually have a Frightmare down yet for next year. So maybe that'd be cool. Get me to Canada. That'd be sweet.
That'd be awesome.
You know what? I have been pushing for a Children of the Corn reunion. We had
well, you better tell them. You better tell them this is it, man. It's the 40th next year, and I'm done. I'm done. So this is kind of my swan song. I've been doing them for 15 plus years. Hey man, I want to be like, look, I'm not getting any younger, dude. I don't want to be coming in a wheelchair and shit, and I can't stand up anymore. It's like, you got 40th. Let's end on top,
Yeah, we had John Philbin on the show last year around this time, and we spent so much time talking about Return of the Living Dead that we didn't even talk about that he was in Children of the Corn with you.
Yeah, and he's with my manager now. So we got me and John Franklin plus the director Fritz plus him. So it's like the four of us.
There you go.
If you want a reunion, man, if you're not gonna, Linda Francis don't need the money. I mean, Linda Hamilton doesn't need the money. So I don't know, but you got to get her.
Yeah. Hey, we'll take what we can get. Come out to Frightmare in the Falls, and hopefully we get Courtney out there one of these years.
That'd be awesome.
Tell me I want the band to come too. I want the band to play. Now
we know people. So, and there is an after party. Ari Lightman's band is playing this year at the after party, I believe.
Very cool, because that'd be a big bonus for me if someone wants to bring the band. That's a big bonus.
That would be awesome. I will definitely throw some information there.
I am going to message James after the show. I know the organizer, so
sweet.
Yes.
Right on. Children of the Corn. Obviously, I know we got some people that are tuning in to watch this. This is typically a horror podcast, but when we have guests that have careers that have spanned so much, we can't have a guy like this on and not talk about the career you've had. So we're going to skip Children of the Corn and go to your second movie. This is one. So in Canada, there's a thing called the First Choice free preview weekend. My dad, we didn't have cable for, I think, until I was in high school. We were like one of the last people on the block to have a VCR. Luckily, my neighbor and best friends had a Betamax, so I was watching. We were watching stuff way too young, but that was the 80s, man. That was how it was. But this is what I saw on the free preview weekend. That I
Hard bodies.
Hard bodies. They mean what they say.
Yeah, man. It's the 80s was such a different time for movies. Those summer comedies were just something that's just. Yeah, sure. We got our American Pies in the last few years and a few others.
It's an ass movies before porn. That was like that's where you got your little views back then. Now it's like no such thing as a tits and ass movie.
I saw a boob.
Yeah, exactly. That was a big deal, right?
That's where you had to freeze it right at that moment.
Hard bodies think they show like 3 or 4 sets of boobs in the first minute just to get you established.
Classic.
Whoa.
If I remember correctly.
And then we grew up in an age where there was like, if you were lucky, you had like 12 channels. Like that was a lot.
The Z channel. Remember the whole thing was the Z channel thing with a box and you press the buttons.
Yeah. Or I'd go on to UHF because we're really close to the border and I try and get.
Yeah.
I have to get into Fox viewing positions with the tinfoil and But I loved the old comedies, the old Western, the Mel Brooks and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
This was one.
There you go.
This was one that was. Yeah, I gotta ask. I mean, being of a time where I grew up watching the '66 Batman. What was it like working with Cesar Romero?
Oh, are you kidding? I was like starstruck, right? Like, I mean, yeah, exactly. From Batman, plus a bunch of other stuff. Though, so I was just when I got to meet him, I was just like, oh my god, it's Cesar Romero. And sort of, his attitude was sort of like, yeah, kid, been there, done that, sort of his attitude. But then as soon as action would happen, he would just light up, and you just see that charisma that he has, That was a great experience for me. Number one, I got to shoot in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which I'd never been to, which is a wonderful place. I wish I'd been smart enough to buy some property in the 80s. I'd be a wealthy man now. And, but all these great veteran actors, I worked for 2 weeks and I stayed for another 2 weeks, which they were kind enough to help me out a bit on the hotels and stuff, just so I could watch all these great people work, to watch Tab Hunter and Cesar Romero and Lainey Kazan and Divine. And I just saturated it because I wanted to one day be them. And here I am now. I'm the old croggy veteran, Yeah. Let me tell you a story, kid, about me. So shoot on 35.
Everybody watching, if you have a question, throw it in the comments. We'll throw it out there to Courtney as we're
absolutely
like the old guys we are here. But moving on to a movie where you got to play some villains later on in your career after the 80s teen scene thing.
Yeah.
That we'll definitely get into. But I think this was really kind of your first villain.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was maybe certainly the most clean cut villain I ever played. That's for sure.
He was a dick.
Yeah. Well, the story I always tell about this most of all, though, is that it's been one of the great paydays of my career, and the reason is that I was there before Eric Stoltz got let go, and I had already been what they call drop picked up once, so I was getting paid for like 5 weeks till they got back to me again, and they freaked out. We called them once and said, "Hey, he's still on payroll." We worked something out, but I was supposed to maybe work 2 weeks, and I ended up getting paid for like 6-8 weeks or something. And of course, it's gone on to be one of the biggest trilogies in Hollywood history. So it's residual checks for me. It's been a blessing my entire career. So thank God for Back to the Future.
So I've admitted a lot of things. I go by the Metal Mennonite here on this show. People know me as the Well and Wing Nut on that other show that I do with my buddy Zeus. And I've seen everybody. I'm a lover of all music. I've seen everybody from Gordon Lightfoot to Cannibal Corpse. So across all
that's a broad span, man.
That is. And I'm not typically the rom-com kind of guy. Me and my girlfriend kind of have an agreement. I don't watch her watch really gory horror movies, and she doesn't make me watch rom-coms. But this movie,
make you watch what I like to call chick flicks. Here we come. There we go.
I admit, man, that whenever this one comes on, I'm watching it because it is one of my all-time favorite 80s movies.
Yeah, it's got some soul, man. It's got some heart for a teen, teen chick flick. It's got a little bit of heart. And thankfully, Jerry Henshaw was was the producer on it. I did 2 movies for him. The first one was called Winners Take All, motorcycle movie. Then this one, and when it got sold to Touchstone, which had just started up a division of Disney, they wanted to get rid of my "You Shit on My House" scene because they thought it was just too intense. And he was a big man, probably 400 plus pounds. And he said he stood up. He started pounding on the desk. He said, "You're not taking that effing scene out of my effing movie. Do you understand?" And all the young suits were like, okay. And so thank God he stood up for me and kept that scene in there because obviously it's gone on to be a, lexicon. Everybody knows that phrase, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. Don't anger the big 400-pound man.
Yeah, thank God he stood up for me against the suits, man. Thank God.
Yeah, like for people like us who grew up in that era, it's like it's not. I don't know. Does this movie get made today? To me, it's not that. But I mean, the idea of, I guess, I don't know. I don't know if this movie gets made today.
Probably be considered politically incorrect to rent a woman.
So sensitive, and it's. I feel like comedy has taken a real hit because people are afraid to take chances.
I don't know the name of the movie, but didn't they do a little kind of spin on this recently where this girl's hired to make the guy cool?
Yes, with Jennifer.
Right. Hudson or not Hudson, Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah.
Yes. It's,
yes. I mean, is that not just a reversal of Can't Buy Me Love?
And I've said this, so many rom-coms, they happen in real life. Stalker. It's not a sweet story. These are stalkers.
Yeah. True.
Stalkers.
You're totally right. When I saw that commercial for the first time, I said that to my wife when we were watching TV. I saw the commercial for that Jennifer Lawrence one. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, there's an 80s one of that, but like role reversal. And we looked it up and I'm like, oh, it's Can't Buy Me Love. Yeah. So that's crazy.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that's one of everybody's faves, no matter what kind of fan you are, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Moving on here, talking about my favorite movies from the 80s. Like, oh my God, like the soundtrack.
I'm going with Colors.
Unbelievable cast. Unbelievable cast. Sean Penn, Robert Duvall, Mario Lopez, Tony Todd, Maria Conchito, Alonzo. Don Cheadle, Damon Wayans.
Yeah.
What was that experience like working in the 80s? And what was still a very heavily fueled gang gang violent era.
Well, that movie put that whole thing on the map, Bloods and Crips. There was nobody talking about Bloods or Crips back then. Dennis Hopper, when he got the script, it was a cop movie, and he lived in a part of Venice Beach that was a very rough part that doesn't even exist anymore, called Ghost Town, that you could not go down at night. You would just get mugged. And he said, make it about, because he knew, because in LA, everybody knew about the Bloods and the Crips. He said, make it about the Bloods and the Crips, and I'll do this movie. And so they rewrote it and put that in. And that was, that made it a whole nother movie. It was the first time that the gangs had been done properly. I grew up in tough neighborhoods in Los Angeles. Right. So I did 3 movies in a row with Gerardo Mejia, Rico Suave, right? Remember Rico Suave? Yeah. So we did that movie, the motorcycle movie. Then we did Can't Buy Me Love. And while we were shooting Can't Buy Me Love, he got the script for Colors. And he said, oh, you're not going to believe it, man. There's a white boy in the gang. You got to get in on this. And so my mentor, a guy named Virgil Fry, Soleil Moon Fry, Punky Brewster's father, him and Dennis Hopper, he was my manager, my mentor and my manager at that point. He knew Dennis Hopper well. He helped him make Easy Rider. And so he called them, and they were like, yeah, we're not really finding anybody for this. He said, well, as soon as he gets back in town, you guys take a meeting. I took a meeting, 5-minute meeting, and they gave me the job because, they didn't know any white guys who knew that world, So I was very excited to be part of that because I wanted to represent that. I don't think people realized that there's white guys in the gangs. And then I also knew Dennis Hopper was going to do something gritty. And then hiring Haskell Wexler, just a fantastic docu-style DP, we were off and running, man.
Yeah, such a fantastic movie. I was, I kind of took the, I'm late 70s, so I kind of grew up in classic rock.
Yeah, me too.
I found my way into rap in the 80s, a big Public Enemy fan, stuff like that, Ice-T.
Well, yeah, that movie broke West Coast rap.
Yeah,
there was no West Coast rap before that movie. So again, one of the impacts that film had.
Yeah, I actually got to see. So I drove to. We're not far from Toronto. About now, he's a little closer. I'm about an hour and a half. I drove about an hour and a half to Toronto to see Body Count. Ice-T had gotten Body Count back together, and they were playing at like 2:30, doing like a 40-minute set in the middle of the day at some festival. And I'm like, I have to be there. And I came out of retirement.
Is your beard still red like that, man? Does it still grow in red like that? That's red.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, he's breaking up.
Oh, things are. Wow. We were experiencing some technical issues.
Now, it's me, man. Technical shit always happens around me. I don't know why.
And last week it was our desktop having technical difficulties. Yeah, unfortunately. Sorry, I'll never play that again. I apologize. All right. Yeah, great movie. And then, this next one too. Like, just when you talk about the cast members that you've worked with.
Yes.
Playing Hans Klopek, Bruce Dern, Carrie Fisher, Henry Gibson, Tom Hanks, great Canadian, unfortunately no longer with us, comedian Rick Dukeman.
Dukeman, yeah.
Dukeman, yeah. I never know how to say his last name, but yeah, funny movie.
Totally.
Yes. Especially if you love horror, right? Like at conventions, obviously my top seller is Korn, but this is my number 2. And that's when I found out doing conventions that there was just a ton of diehard Burbs fans out there. It's like a cult. It's like a cult classic. Some people see it like every year, have parties and see it every year. It's like crazy.
I know. Yeah, when I do the conventions, you see the T-shirts, you see everything Burbs, and it's like, wow.
Yeah. Comedy and horror come together, which a lot of people say the rhythm of horror is very similar to the rhythm of comedy. I don't know. That's what they say.
Yeah, and you trying to think of any other genres that have their own conventions. There's really, there's not too many comedy.
Sci-fi and horror, right?
Yeah, sci-fi and horror. Yeah, they're a very special breed. Do you find that they are a very different, like a fanatical breed in a good way of fans when you meet the horror fans at the conventions, as opposed to people that are like Can't Buy Me Love or Memphis Belle or stuff like that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, horror fans are definitely a certain breed, and some of them are really, really super mellow too. They need something like that, with that much stimulation, just to get any like rise out of them at all. So it just depends on the people. Some are very hyper, some are very like, it takes like something really violent even to make them go, oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, I've been watching horror movies for so long. That's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Shock me, man. Shock me. I mentioned Memphis Belle, and again, I have to keep going back to working with these fantastic ensembles and fantastic casts. Like this was, I've seen interviews with you before and stuff, and this was such a huge movie. This was the movie you want to be in as an actor that year. And so
every actor my age wanted that movie. That was a big deal. And unfortunately, it didn't do as great in the box office as we'd hoped, because it came out right as the first Iraqi war started. So the timing couldn't have been worse. If people had realized that the war was going to be over so fast, maybe it would have made a difference. Horror fans are the best. Yes, they are. Yes,
we are a big family for sure. And
so, so Memphis Belle, it's gone on to do, well in video and over the years and everything, but it did not do the box office that Warner Brothers had hoped for that year.
They actually put you guys through you did like a boot camp.
We did. It was these SAS agents from England, like guys like equivalent of Green Berets in America. And they put us through the paces, man. Longest day of my life, I think, was one day it went from 3 a.m. to 3 a.m. And they just kept having us do all these tasks. And I remember like 2 or 3 times in my mind, I kept saying, is this the same day? Is this the same day? You're like, oh wow, it really doesn't take that much to break somebody. Within like 2-3 days, I was like, getting brainwashed. You know what I mean? It was very interesting, but it was a good experience because it helped us really bond. Because really, once we went into the interior of the plane, we didn't really see each other anymore, right? It would just be shooting all the stuff in the tail, or shooting all the stuff in the middle, or shooting all the stuff in the front. So we needed that bonding time to carry into the shoot, especially all the interiors.
Yeah. And just, as an actor, getting to shoot at the legendary Pinewood Studios.
Oh man, the best.
Yeah.
Best commissary anywhere. The LA commissaries are terrible. It's like a cafeteria level, right stuff. Mm-hmm. This was like a Sunday brunch, like every day. Would you like the big ham or would you like the roast? And like beautiful and like grounds, and it was like, it's never been better than Pinewood Studios. That's for sure.
That's awesome.
You took a break for a bit. You did some other stuff. You started a band, a production company.
Oh, he's done his research. This guy's done his research.
He started a family. We're living in LA, like we talked with John about this, living in LA in the 80s, like near the Sunset Strip. What was that like growing up and being a musician? How special was that to be a part of that? Well,
it was interesting because like on one hand, there was the knowledge of the Sunset Strip, like the bands I would have really liked to have seen, right? Like the Doors starting out or something like that, right? And then there was, I'm a kid in the 80s, right? And like, now it's metal, and I'm not a metal guy. I'm more of a 60s, 70s rocker kind of guy. I wasn't too into spandex and all that kind of stuff. So I sort of felt like I was like a guy fishing the wrong time, right? Like now I can appreciate what was going on there. But so I had a completely alternative band. My band was called The Gathering, and we were an acoustic band with a girl who could belt. And there was a little coffee house scene that was kind of on the underground off of the Strip that ended up becoming a real thing. And the reason I tell this is so one of the guys that had there was this place called the Highland Grounds, which was like I said, where coffee houses were just starting, and we became like pretty popular. And there was this guy who ran it named Spooky. We were in his demo video. He ended up getting on MTV as a VJ. He ended up breaking grunge on there, and then he also was the guy who came up with the Unplugged, because that's what he had done in LA. But he wanted to do unknown bands. And then when they spun it into big bands, he got pissed and he left. He was a DJ on MTV, and he just said like piss off, and left. And he walked right out of there in New York and auditioned for the Who's Tommy, and then went on tour for like 5 years doing the Broadway show. I was like, this guy is crazy. But like there was a really cool scene happening. This guy was the linchpin of it all. So we were doing a whole different thing than the metal thing.
That's cool.
No,
wow. I can appreciate that. I wasn't big on the 80s. In the 80s, I was listening to 60s and 70s, much like you. When I was even younger than that, in my household, my parents are a lot older. I'm the youngest of 7. So I grew up listening to 50s, music, a lot of like Buddy Holly and the Comets and Chuck Berry and Elvis.
So did I. And the reason I did is because in Chicano neighborhoods where I grew up, oldies were the thing.
Right.
So like, one of my favorite songs is Ever Nervous, Tell It Like It Is. Tell it like it is. His voice kills me, man. Like kills me. Like makes me tear up. But that's one of my favorite songs. But I grew up with oldies too, and I think that is where, on a subconscious level, where the songwriting comes from, because that era, the structure of writing was really, really good. You had Carol Kane writing and Neil Sedaka and these people, and I think that stuff seeped into my head, and I think that's where I have I don't think I'm necessarily the greatest musician or the greatest singer, but I do hang my hat on I can write a tune. That's really where I hang my hat. And I think that came from growing up listening to those 50s tunes.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, it was every era has their own special, thing that was special about it. But yeah, it's just 50s music. It was just such a, I think, my kids always gave me they'll be listening to some hot new song, and my kids are in their early 20s now, and I'll be like, that's garbage. And like, oh, you're just saying that because you're old. I'm like, listen, right. I grew up listening to music made 20 years before I was even born, and that was, to me, that was the shit,
Yeah.
So
right.
I think having that appreciation of growing up on older music, and I have the one, Austin a little bit, but Taylor's the one that really, like, she loves the Guess Who. She loves Steve Miller Band, Tom Petty, and stuff like that. So I did sink into one kid at least.
Good job. Yeah, I think it's hard. I mean, yes, we're getting old, and yes, I think a lot of stuff we hear now is crap. But I think it's because some of it is crap. A lot of it is crap. But yeah, I mean, things peak. Things have eras, right? So the 50s into the 60s into the 70s was obviously the peak of rock and roll, and the 80s was the sort of the decline when rap came in. And I was a guy going like, rap, it'll never last.
Yeah.
Now it's celebrating its like 30th anniversary or some craziness, right?
Yeah,
so I think the 90s too was the 90s were people like me, kids like me starting bands, and it was such a melting pot of these subgenres that they were the kids that grew up off, the rap and the rock and the early hip hop and the 50s stuff. And now we're seeing the kids that were influenced by the 90s stuff. So I think that shift is what's maybe putting us on a touch a little bit.
I don't know, man. I think the problem nowadays is that you can't to make a living as a musician is very difficult, because the days of selling CDs for $15 that cost 50 cents and they're making by the $500,000 is over. And I think that's sort of what the actors are facing right now with the union strike is residuals. Residuals for a guy like me is what helped me pay the rent when things were slow. If we don't get any decent streaming residuals, the middle class actor in America is done. And I've been seeing this coming for a long time, and it's just sort of scary that we're finally here. But I think because that happened in the musicians, I don't think you're getting the brightest minds in the music industry anymore. I think the brightest minds are going to Silicon Valley. And I think the same thing is going to happen with the actors. I think there's going to be the actors who make it big. Are those actors that are going to have to be willing to have a side hustle, or they're just going to go into some other profession where they can make some money? So I think the talent pool will suffer if they do not get this together. It's brutal right now. This fight that they're having with the studios, or we're having with the studios, I should say, is absolutely brutal. They do not seem to care whether an actor can make a living or not anymore. I mean, I feel very fortunate I was around when I was around in this business now, because it's going to be tough for these people coming up, man.
Yeah, it's tough all around for sure. We touched on your movie career. We touched on you starting your first band, and you were in everything on TV, from Seinfeld, ER, Jag, Charmed, Alias, My Name Is Earl, and then when did you start producing? When did that shift happen?
Well, I had a production company, kind of right where you started off at that time where it seemed like things slowed down in my career. What happened was I took my eye off the ball, and I got into like a production company. I got into a band. I was teaching, and I thought I'd arrived, which was a big mistake, because I was getting great opportunities, but I wasn't preparing like I should. So I started doing production then. We started doing rap videos and stuff like that. So back in the late 80s, early 90s. So that was my first soiree into production. And then I'm trying to think what was the first. I think was it Dorm Days was the first one I kind of came back with and got involved as a co-executive producer, helped raise some money. And I've dabbled in it. I certainly have not really made any significant money at being a producer. That's a hard racket, man. I mean, making independent films nowadays is a very, very hard racket. It used to be easier. You used to get advances for selling your films. They don't do that anymore. So that's a tough racket. There's Dorm Days. Oh my God, he's got Dorm Days. Crazy.
Yeah, Dorm Days. Again, my girlfriend hates my sense of humor sometimes. She loves my sense of humor, but she hates my sense because I put on movies all the time. And she's like, oh, it's like the horror movies I put on. She's like, oh my God, like, what is this crap? I'm like, listen, it's because you don't have an open enough mind to find the humor. Not my fault. I love you. I love you.
Yes. Sense of humors are, you can't, they are what they are, right? You got yours and she's got her. Same thing with my girlfriend. Something that she finds, she likes shows like The Nanny, but we can agree on like I Love Lucy. I mean, greatest sitcoms of all time. Now I'm trying to get her into All of the Family. She's coming around, but I try to tell her, like, you could never, this is the greatest sitcom of all time, and you could never have it on TV today. And now, at first, she was just completely shocked. She couldn't believe the stuff they were doing, and now she's getting into it. But yeah, to me, the bar is All in the Family. That is the comic bar.
My girlfriend's favorite show of all time is All in the Family. Second favorite, Three's Company.
All right, well, that's a big Three's Company is my girl watches that too. Now, that's fairly cheese. But funny. But like she go all the way to All the Family. Right on. I like her already.
Well, yeah, like there was the early '80s sitcoms were always always the moral ending, or what did you learn from this episode? The ropes or the family ties,
the Huxtables,
growing pains,
right. And you got to understand. Like I said, as a kid, he grew up in the hood, right? So like I grew up watching '70s movies where like everybody dies in the end, or like. I grew up watching like film noir. It's like when the 80s movies came around, like, the Spielberg happy endings, I was not into it. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with, sitcoms that got cheese too. I like stuff. I mean, but I love the, and All in the Family. It's like they're using this device to point out, prejudice and judgment and ignorance, but in a way that we can all laugh at ourselves, which is the big problem now, is nobody can freaking laugh about anything. It's like it's cancel culture on the left, cancel culture on the right. It's like
comedy and always has been putting a mirror up to society and going, look how dumb you are.
Yeah. And if you can't laugh at it, it goes all the way back to Commedia dell'arte, man. Back when with those Commedia dell'arte masks, they would put the masks on so that the big higher ups didn't know who they were, and in the streets they'd make fun of them and talk shit about them. Right. That's where comedy comes from. It comes from those people on the bottom being pissed off and having something they want to say about it. And it's the same where good rock and roll comes from too. You know what I mean?
It's like I've been waiting for like a punk revelation or a heavy metal revelation to come around again. In dark times, seems that punk always spurs or metal spurs like really good stuff. And we've been in some pretty dark times the past few years. I'm just waiting for something to ignite that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, even like, we're talking about rap, when rap first came out, when you're talking about like NWA and stuff like that, again, it was because people had something to say. Yeah. Now it's just about, bitches this and bitches that, and I got a big car, I'm gonna spend my money, blah. It's all crap. It's all devolved. But that's what happens. But yeah, I would love some kind of music revolution where somebody's that guy. I don't know the guy's name, but that he did this country song, talking like this kind of like this American anthem for
small towns.
Like it wasn't the small town song, but it was sort of
that one. Okay.
That did get a lot of controversy, which I can understand. But no, this one was just about the dude talking about, fucking working 40 hours a fucking day and not having enough to pay any fucking rent, and it like went off. He was like not even a signed artist because he was the first person to just kind of say something gutsy in a long time,
See, we need more of that.
It's a reality. I know there's a few, when I was growing up in this town, one homeless person and everybody knew their name. Now, like we have like these 10 cities that are formed.
They're everywhere.
And there's people there that have full-time jobs that cannot find housing.
You look under any of our bridges in this area, and it's all houses. It's all tent cities.
Yeah, I'm from LA, right? So like I've seen all the. I was involved in a feeding program for 20 years. I saw it get worse and worse. We have a Skid Row, and it's super appalling because LA is literally LA and the state of California is literally one of the richest places on the planet, not just in this United States. So there is no excuse for not dealing with the issue. It's just. Politicians taking the money and not being motivated because it doesn't. These are let's talk about my record a little bit because this is exactly what some of that shit's about, right? So it's in the PR thing, I couldn't believe it. They said it said. I said I'm calling bullshit on some things that I think are fucked up. I couldn't believe they actually quoted me exactly like it was. But so there's a fun song in there, "Bills in Space." But it's about the billionaire space race. And I think that is the biggest ego trip on the planet. I would like those 3 guys with their resources and their genius to solve homelessness and world hunger. That's what I'd like them to do. But can they monetize that? So I don't think they're all that motivated, are they? So, But a lot of the songs are about stuff that, it's done tongue in cheek or it's done sarcastically, but it's talking about stuff. Like the second song, "The Healer," is told from the point of view of a plastic surgeon selling this woman and all the things he can do for her, basically on a God trip level, that he's going to make her look better than God did, so it's like,
that's awesome.
It's the kind of things I like to talk about.
Was this a project that was born out of the pandemic or?
Getting back into music and recording came out of the pandemic, definitely. When we all started to look within, right? We all had a little time on our hands and we're like, whoa, I don't know how long I'll be around. What matters? And what came up was music. And then I started doing research because again, we had the time and started realizing that the technology, it comes so far that you could buy a little home studio now to do some tracking at a very affordable price. And that's when I put out the first record, The Acoustic Gains, Volume 1, that came out in 2021. And then my previous band, Ripple Street, they approached me. They were in North Carolina, but now again, through the technology, they're sending me tracks. I'm doing vocals here, and we put out 4 songs. And then after that is when I decided to put my own band together here, put a 3-piece together, switch from guitar to bass so I could have a better guitar player to fill out the songs for when, because here in Savannah, you can get paid to play music, but you got to do like 3 45-minute sets a night. So you're going to do like 70% covers, which is very different than what I used to do in LA. So I needed a better guy to help carry the songs. But so I started tracking. So these were songs. Some of these songs I'd had for a long time. 3 of them were in a movie called Benny Bliss and the Disciples of Greatness that I produced and starred in. That came out in 2006. That it was about an anti-technology message, and it's only gotten 10 times worse since then. And we end that thing with a live band that I sing, and it's about a 15-minute set. So it's a pretty crazy movie. I always if people like to smoke out or like that or drink a 6-pack, I suggest you do that before you watch that movie. But it's a fun, crazy ride. But the music's really quite good. There's some very, very good musicians in it. So they were supposed to do a record. It never happened. So I did those 3 songs plus 3 new songs I wrote. And these are all storytelling songs. And so I put them in an EP. That's sort of how this came about.
Yeah, you mentioned storytelling songs and your ability as a songwriter, to come up with these kind of songs. The Great Divide was a song that you put out that very much reflected our times.
Yeah, that was with Ripple Street with these 4 singles we put out, and we were going to put the record out a little bit before January 6th happened. It was done, but it wasn't coming out yet, and then of course it happened. I just literally shot video off the TV for the last part of the video because we were almost done with the video, and just put it out that day. And that's the song's very simple. It's like they're telling us you got to choose left or you got to choose right. You got to choose this, you got to choose that. You got to choose nothing. Who said that? Who said you got to be all the way on one side? Most people are in the middle, right? Most people are much more close to the middle, and most people are not crazy and on the fringe, right? And it was just pointing out: divided they conquer, united we stand, right? Just a simple But I also put it out during that whole time. There was so many people, that friends of ours, that like just went off the freaking rails right during the pandemic. And I sent it to them. I never replied, never got in a fight with them. I did what I always do. I let my art do the speaking. And it was so interesting to see the people who could handle it and the people who couldn't, because it wasn't even like a left song, in my opinion. I thought it was right down the middle. As some people just stopped talking to us after that song came out. I couldn't believe it. I was like, well, that's where we already were with these people. But yes, like they couldn't have it their way, and they didn't want to know it.
It definitely was magnified during those times, for sure.
Oh yeah. And still out here in the South, man, stuff comes out of people's mouths just blow my mind. Yeah. I try to, I'm from LA, right? I know I look like I'm a hick because that's like. Because I know I can play roles like this, like
you don't just play one in movies, right?
There you go, there you go.
Yeah, Wrath of Becky, that was a fun movie.
I knew Grow the Beard and the Proud Boy roles will come, and look at that.
Yeah, the States is interesting. From being up here watching, being so close to the border, we get a lot of Buffalo news. We see a lot of what goes on. It's basically a two-party system. And we're not going to get too political here, but in Canada, we've always been kind of a three-party system. There have been parties that have formed in the last 10 years that have gained some ground, but haven't really made a lot of noise. But there's been a shift. It's always been, the NDPs and the Conservatives, or the NDPs and the Liberals, or there's always been that two-party battle, and then the third pulling up the rear. And I've always voted NDP, which we had a local politician who was really good for our area, which is why I voted that way. I didn't always necessarily agree with the party, but I knew he was good for us. And in the times that we have now, it's just like, oh man.
Well, it's even coming up. So I know a little bit about Canadian politics, and the reason is, do you know she's an actress? She was an actress for a long time. Now she's getting back in it, but she was a politician, a successful politician in Nova Scotia, Lenore Zan. Do you know Lenore Zan?
I don't know.
I bet if you looked her up, you saw, she is.
We're on the other side, so.
So her most famous thing nowadays is she played the voice for Rogue in the comic X-Men, which is now having a huge research, and they're doing it again because it's like 40th anniversary or whatever. She's doing tons of Comic-Cons right now. But she was a politician up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and she got cancel cultured because she spoke up about gun control, and people went nuts. After I think she'd won like 7 elections in a row, and after that she got toasted. So even in Canada, cancel culture is going down.
Yeah, I think it was the Michael Moore documentary where he talked about how we have more guns per capita than the States. Maybe not now.
Is that right?
Now, but when that documentary came out, but we're a nation of hunters. It's just we have so much wilderness and so much, and that's always been what we've used our guns for. Obviously we've had our share of. We live close to Toronto. The gun violence has gotten worse in the last few years.
Sure.
But, I mean, when you get more people, more diverse cultures in big cities, I mean, that's obviously the violence is going to be magnified.
My big thing is can't we just be practical? Do we need submachine guns? Do we need M16s? I think the answer is obviously no. But those who are extreme, gun rights, Second Amendment, they don't want to hear it. But I think that it's pretty obvious that we don't need guns that were designed to kill people in battle on the streets. I think this is common freaking sense,
I think Jim Jeffries said it best when that law was put into place at a time where, you had the musket, you had time to you got attacked and loaded, you're like, you're not such a bad guy.
You probably get a shot.
What were we arguing about?
Yeah, because nowadays, man, people are just shooting each other left and right, aren't they? It's just like crazy. Little argument, pow!
They don't even think about it. You know what I mean? It's a quick decision. They don't think about it, and then what is it, like 30 years for shooting a dude now? And you're
not only they ruin that person's life and that person's family's life, but they ruin their own life and their own family's life. So it's it's just stupidity on steroids. You know what I mean?
It's crazy. In her riding in Halifax, though, I think they use a lot of long rifles and shotguns just to live out there, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like out on the rock there, it's a rough life.
Well, maybe that's why it got people riled up. I mean, she said she was getting death threats and all kinds.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Canada's not, all roses either, my friend.
Oh no,
we're not. People like to portray us as that. Oh, sorry about that, but it's not the case anymore. You started playing very young. So was the love for music there before you even thought about acting?
No. Acting was the first thought. I knew, but according to my father, I knew by the time I was 6 years old. He told me a story that somebody asked me, an adult said, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" And a doctor, a lawyer, and I was like indignant. I said, "No, I'm going to be an actor." Like, not wanna be, gonna be. And he said he remembered that, and he thought to himself, whatever I can do to help him make that happen, I'll do, which they did. And
that's awesome.
But I started taking professional acting classes and playing guitar about at the same time, 13. Okay. I knew I wanted to do acting as a profession, but I was always, into music. And what I really like is writing. As soon as I could learn to put 3 chords together, I just started writing. That's really the thrill for me. It's a very, creatively speaking, it's a very high experience for me to write music. It comes through you, and you gotta just keep going till you could be starving, and you're just like, I gotta finish this song, because if you walk away, you're gonna lose it, right? You're gonna, so you have to just get it down on paper, and you gotta right away. And it's a really an amazing experience, and I just really it's much higher for me than playing. I'm starting to really enjoy playing live, because I'm playing out enough now that I don't have to deal with so much anxiety about it. But I really, it's the creating a song is one of my favorite things to do. That's
awesome.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. People who don't like music, I don't trust you, because there's something wrong upstairs, and you can't. It's so emotional. It's a song that means one thing to the writer can mean so many different other things to the people listening, and I think that's the most powerful thing about music.
Yeah. Well, right. We're all interpreting whatever. That's why I think most musicians don't want to talk about what the song's about. I don't agree with that. I'm just going to tell you exactly what I wrote, but I know why they tend to do that, because they don't want to limit people's imaginations or how it touches or affects them.
I'd rather not know. Like, I'm a big Beatles fan.
Don't ask.
I love Pink Floyd, the Beatles, everything like that. And when I'm listening to especially the later years of the Beatles, I'm kind of making my own interpretation in my mind of what's happening around. And I'd rather not Paul come out and say, "Well, I wrote it about this," Who
wants to know who the Walrus is, right? Who wants
exactly.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, right?
That's right. Who wants to know? It's LSD, man. I know it.
It's LSD. Yeah. So, Children of the Corn.
We're to Corn now. We must be coming to the end of this thing.
Well, we're going to get back to your album. We're definitely going to talk.
It's cool. It's cool.
No, we're definitely going to talk about that. We're going to let people know where they can find it and where they can listen to it.
Good.
Children of the Corn, man. So my Children of the Corn experience, I'm going to say I saw it when I was about 10 years old.
Oh, man.
I saw it in Northern Ontario, which is very rural, with my older cousins who made me watch it. And then the next day I had to drive to London to catch the bus back to Niagara. And it's pretty much all fields from there. And I remember about halfway there, I said to my uncle, I'm like, I really need to go to the washroom. And he just kind of pulled over next to the cornfield. And I went like, keep driving. I'll hold it till London, because that is not happening right now. Not happening right now.
Yeah, I'll always be associated with a food. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, cornfields, to you is like after I watched Jaws, I couldn't go into the water to me. So I understand what you're saying, man.
Yeah, I'm still that way.
Which one, the water or the corn?
The water. I remember my mom brought home a Betamax, and she worked at Sears and had this movie Jaws, and I was probably about 8 or 9, and we put it in, and never went back in the water.
Yeah, see, that's what happens when you watch these movies too young. Then you become like horror fanatics. That's what happens.
Yeah, that, and I also remember like in my high school years. So I'm right on the edge of town, and just through the tunnel under the canal, the Welland Canal. There, it's very rural, and I had a lot of friends that grew up out there on farms and stuff. And I remember in high school going to parties and doing mushrooms and running through the cornfields, and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm having a great time. This is awesome. Then I'd start thinking about children on the corn. I went, oh my god, why did that pop into my head right now? All right, I'm freaking out. Get me the fuck out of here.
That's the thing about corn. You get out there and it all looks the same and you lose your sense of direction, right? That's the whole deal, right?
We have an audience.
Anything could be in there with you. That's the thing.
When we were kids, I grew up on a 115-acre farm with a humongous cornfield up north because we lived off of our farm. And that's when I watched that movie. I am 49 and it's still, I don't even want to watch it. We rewatched it recently and until the end, it was the same, you know what I mean? And it's been like literally how many years?
Yeah, almost 40 years.
Yeah.
So you're welcome.
Yeah. Just like I don't like clowns because of Cobra Guys, the original.
The town you guys filmed that in. Yeah, I forget the name. I thought I had it written down.
Whiting.
Okay.
Whiting, small little town. We were mainly out of a town called Sioux City, I think, Sioux City, Iowa. Which was right near the corner of right near Nebraska, where you could go over and get Everclear 100 proof alcohol at 16. So that was really great.
Yeah, just that middle of nowhere, feel to it. I think becomes a character, and the town becomes a character in the movie because it has that the fear of isolation and the fear of okay, sure I can run, but where am I going to run to right now, right? I think.
Yeah, for a relatively low budget movie, certainly low budget movie, not as low as some of them are made today by standards. But if you look at, there's so many elements of that movie that come together. There's obviously really obviously went on to be proven to be a very good cast, right? A bunch of people went on to work and do well. The set dressing's really interesting. The directing's well done. The wardrobe, like a lot, and then the guy that did the music. I mean, fantastic, right? So a lot of elements came together to make that movie. Choices had to be made by the director and the producers for all those things to work, and it's highly underestimated how production value. That's where a lot of people nowadays, when they do these little, you can make a movie super cheap now on your phone if you want to, you know what I mean? Yeah. But they don't really understand how important good lighting is or how good set dressing is. A set decorator can make or break a film, and you just don't realize. Production designer, those things, and that movie has all of those things in a very, very good way if you really observe it. The pagan, crosses in the corn, and they're really cool. I mean, they're like, it's really well done,
Oh, totally.
Yeah. It definitely left some scars for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was definitely scarred from that one.
Good stuff.
Not to mention, we're not even going to get into it. I don't even want to do it. All right. Yeah. You had such a great journey as an actor, and you got into the music, and then you befriended a very famous musician who you actually got to get on stage and play with. Were you a fan of Phish before you met?
No, because they weren't famous yet. That's the interesting thing. So I met the Mike Gordon, the bass player, when they were just coming up. I was actually hitchhiking across the country from Nova Scotia because my friend Lenore gotten married, and I was hitchhiking to Michigan. This is a crazy story. Hitchhiking to Michigan to see this girl, and it was right before Can't Buy Me Love came out. I thought, you know what? This is it, man. I'm not like that movie's going to do well. This is it. Like, this is probably the last chance I could do something crazy like this. And on the second day, this guy picks me up as the sun's going down. This guy picks me up, and he ends up finding me a place to stay in this little town called Burlington, Vermont, which is near New York, which has this very serious jam band scene going on because it's a college town. Matter of fact, the guy who directed and did Benny Bliss, he's a very accomplished musician himself, keyboard player. He plays with Billy Gibbons' band. He's the band leader for Billy Gibbons. He was all part of that scene. That's how we hit it off at this entertainment basketball thing, because he couldn't believe I knew where Burlington, Vermont was. But so that's where Phish came out of. And they had this college professor who really taught all these guys this heavy duty music theory, and that's why there's been this great scene that's come out of there. But they were still just playing in their local town. Next thing I know, they're showing up in LA and like, 500 seat theater. Next thing I know, they're showing up and they're opening for Santana at the Greek. And then the next thing you know, they're playing at the Greek themselves. And I just watched these guys just grow. It's been an amazing journey. And they're an amazing band, man. I mean, they're crazy cool.
Yeah, I first heard about Fish. I was going to say I was probably in high school, so mid 90s. People that, were, as you do in your teen years, you're still kind of finding music that you haven't, discovered yet. And people were listening to the Grateful Dead and stuff like that.
Sure. They're certainly in that ilk. No doubt about that.
Yeah. Fish almost kind of, I think they almost kind of took over the whole, Dead.
Now that, Garcia's gone and all that, they have kind of taken over the mantle. Yeah.
That's how I got into Fish. Is I was a big Deadhead back in the day. And all of a sudden someone was popping in a Fish tape and we were all like, whoa, like just blew our minds.
Yeah. Trey's super talented, the guitar player. He's just he's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tell everybody where they can find your latest.
Sure. Yeah, the only place you can get this is at the label itself. So fakefangrecords.com, fakefangsrecords.com. We're not going through Spotify or any of those platforms. I've been on plenty of those platforms. They did absolutely nothing to help me sell a record. So this time we're going directly through the label. But what's cool is you go there and you can listen to the whole record 3 times for free. And if you like it, you can just do a download for like $7, or you can we have a limited run of CDs, 500. I think the packaging looks awesome. Sounds really good too. And that's like $8. So you can, and I think you get the digi download with that. So it's like a twofer. So that's where you get it. Fakefangs.com, Fake Fangs Records. And we did a pre-order thing where I signed some, and that was cool. Sold a bunch of records that way. And just did our first gig where I had CDs and just sold some of my first CDs. That was really cool. So we're getting it out there. And
you have some live gigs coming up, or?
Right now most of them are still within 2 hours within Savannah. We just went up to North Carolina and did this thing called the Devil Forks Film Festival, which you can actually find online. This guy named Dale of Shelby taped the whole thing. So and that was cool. So we got to get on a bigger stage with a big PA. And just rock hard and just do a 50-minute set. It was a little more contained in that way. And we had a good time. And you want to see what we're about. You want to see if I can play it all. You want to see if we can do something. Go check them out. So Devil's Fork Metal Festival, Dale from Shelby. If you type that on Facebook, you'll find it. And there's all, there's 2. We're in the second and third nights of the show. And plus they posted some stuff of some of just our stuff. And you can see if we can hold our own. See if I'm an actor who doesn't suck, because I know the bar isn't that high for an actor. I know that, and I understand why. So I feel like hopefully I can exceed that bar at least.
It's a route we've seen a lot of actors take. Like I think it was last year at Fragment, or maybe it was Niagara Falls Comic Con. I got to interview Bill Moseley, and we got to
Moseley's doing music
Double Rides West, which is
did a record with Buckethead. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff. So creative people just like to do creative things. You know what I mean? So sure. That's how we are. But next year we're definitely gonna get out on the road and try to promote this thing, and also try to time it with obviously I'm gonna be doing a lot of conventions because of 40th Corn. I don't know if we'll be able to play, maybe some of them will have us play, which would be nice. But if not, maybe we can do like a Sunday night when the shows are over, so they don't feel like we're barging in on there. Like, hey, you're taking customers from us on a Saturday night or something. But we definitely intend to get out there. And then I'm also doing this crazy thing where there's a 35 millimeter print of Children of the Corn. There's like one of the few ones still left out there. We're going to do some like art house things where we'll show the movie, do a Q&A, band play, VIP meet and greet. So like Chicago, some places like that, New York, there's some talk. So just go to the Courtney Gaines Group Facebook page. That's where you're going to find out what's happening. That's the way to know what's going on.
Awesome. It is Safe Haven. Go check it out. Go check out his acoustic stuff. Go check out the page. Check out. Sorry, what was the Fang?
The what?
Fang Records.
Fake Fangs. Fakefangs.com.
Fake Fang Records. Go check that out.
Yeah, and you can find my previous band, Ripple Street. We got a bunch of stuff up as well on whether it be YouTube or Spotify or any of those things, iTunes, all that. So if you want to see, see a little bit about what I've been doing all these years. It's, there's some stuff to check out.
Well, you've gained some new respect from one of our fans, Lee Griffin. So hopefully.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming on the show. It's getting to talk to these actors and stuff, especially one that has such a love for music. As both Steve and I do, and just we grew up with, was a fantastic thrill for me. So thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming on.
My pleasure, gentlemen. Well, hopefully you can make that convention happen, and we'll see you in person next year, huh?
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
We will definitely put some calls in. We know people, so
yeah,
let's do it. Hey.
All right. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate you coming on, man. We're doing about 5-10 minutes news. You're welcome to stay, or we can let you go. I know you probably have.
I'll check it out.
All right. So, yeah, horror news of the week, everybody. We know that the Halloween franchise, talking about franchises from the late 70s, early 80s, Miramax won the war. I know they were battling it out with A24. I'm surprised Blumhouse wasn't in on this.
I think Blum had him, and Blum put him up for sale, didn't they?
Oh, was Blumhouse who currently
Blum had him.
Well, don't I look stupid now? All right. Next story. We got our first look at the Strangers trilogy. I know my girlfriend's happy about this because that movie, you want to talk about movies, The Strangers messed my girlfriend up bad. Yeah, what Lee said. Much respect for Courtney. That's awesome. Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Strangers trilogy. What do you think, Steve? I know you were a fan of the first one.
Huge fan. You know what I mean? You're trapped in that cabin. There's lunatics trying to get in, possibly in the cabin. Ooh, yeah, we've all been there. So
yeah, especially living up here in Canada, eh? Sorry about that. A movie I think we both had high hopes for. I haven't seen it yet. My opinion, but I know The Exorcist Believer is not doing so great with critics and fans. I think it's holding at about 22% on Rotten Tomatoes. Take that for what you will. We always say go see it for yourself, form your own opinions.
Well, when you try to do a sequel to maybe arguably the greatest horror film of all time, good luck.
Right. Yeah, exactly. How do you
I told Steve, Steve had read the book. I was so afraid to watch Dr. Sleep because I'm such a huge Shining fan. I avoided watching it for about 5 years after it came out. And then I finally watched it. And it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's so hard to make a movie better than a book. So hard.
Indeed.
Talking about movies, Terrifier 3, we're going to get a little sneak preview or teaser, and it's not going to be one of these little 10-second, 15-second things. It's a full 2-minute teaser that's going to be playing during the Terrifier 2 re-release, which is happening next month. Check your local theaters for that.
There's your like 1 in a million independent project that cut through. And, art is, in my opinion, no, I'm not a horror guy, but Art is like the greatest horror character to come down the pike in a while, man.
He is.
And they're super nice guys. I'd like to work with them someday. But what Damon's pulled off, as basically an auteur filmmaker. Now he's signed with ICM or something or CAA. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because he's been doing it his way on his own for so long. Now the studio systems are going to come after him and try to bring him into the fold, but they're going to be like, yeah, but we want you to do this. We're going to pay you a lot of money, but we want you to do this and see how that's going to go. I don't know if he's ready for that, man. Because he's 1 in a million nowadays that an independent film breaks out like he's been able to do. And he raised the money for Terrifier 2, bang, that. Scary.
Fans are hungry for Art the Clown, man.
It's an incredible character, man. I remember I saw it fucking blew my mind.
If you're going to be a friend, you're
following her like this, it was what have I seen?
Steve did some artwork for the film. He's also animating the graphic novel. So if you're going to be a friend, stop by his table and pick up a copy of that, or pick up a copy of The Harvester if you want to.
Yeah, I worked on Terrifier 2 as well. I did a bunch of work on that one. So.
Did you really?
Yeah. Yeah, I built the fun house and everything in the background.
Oh, well, right on. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
When the show's over now, I want to talk to you about something graphics-wise. So
okay. Perfect. A new movie I definitely have high hopes for, and I'm sure it's going to be awesome because it's Guillermo del Toro, man. He's doing Frankenstein, and now we know that Christopher Waltz is going to be attached to the Frankenstein movie.
Absolutely brilliant.
It just keeps getting better.
It's so terrible. What, Christopher Waltz? Why would you want him in? That guy is awesome.
We're totally kidding. Come on the show.
Yeah, right. No, the friend of mine was in that. What was it, Showtime? No, what was it? It was for one of those streaming things that one where he played this guy in an office. It was the office, called The Office. I was not thinking he was great in that thing, man. God, so creepy. He's always so weird and creepy.
He is. Yeah.
Florida, man, only in Florida. So the local news station in Buffalo does this bit every day where they do news stories from Buffalo from Ohio and Florida. There's always something messed up going on in Florida or Ohio, it seems. And this week was no different, as a bunch of fourth graders got to watch Pooh, Blood and Honey.
What? Man.
Like, you ever notice on Datelines, like 80% of the stories take place in Florida? You ever notice that? There must be something in the water, man.
We love you, Florida. Wow, it played for almost 30 minutes before it was actually finally turned off, despite some children saying, we don't want to watch this. Turn this off, please. Man.
Where was the teacher when this was going on? Was the teacher in the room?
I don't know.
Smoking in the boys' room, apparently.
Exactly.
No, it's vaping in the gender-neutral bathroom now.
Yeah, there you go.
This movie I just found out about. I don't know if it's in production yet, but look forward to this one in the next year or so. I mean, you talk about snakes on a plane. Well, this is zombies on a plane. And who do you get when you got zombies on the plane? Well, you get Vanilla Ice playing himself, of course.
Come on.
And I mean, who compliments Vanilla Ice better than anyone in a zombie movie where you're playing yourself? It's fucking Chuck Norris, man.
Come on.
80-year-old Chuck, just get off me.
Yeah, I just point Chuck at the zombies and let him roundhouse them all the way out of the plane, man.
All right, and our last story of the day.
Wow.
We want to say condolences to the family and friends of Piper Laurie, who we lost this week. At the very ripe age of 91. She gave such a fantastic career. Obviously Carrie, known in the horror world, but
that's right.
A couple Emmy and Golden Globe nominations, as well as Oscar noms. The Hustler, Children of a Lesser God. She was in the Twin Peaks TV show.
That's right.
Huge loss.
Yep, she's a real deal right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Australia of the States.
and where are you, Kurt? I can't remember exactly where you were. I know you're somewhere down south there, I think. I know you're a Steelers fan, and I don't hold that against you, but yeah, I know you're somewhere down there. But yeah, that's it for everybody here at Two Severed Heads. We want to thank Courtney Gaines for coming on. And
thanks for coming on, man.
With a couple of hosers like us. And
that's right. Hosers, eh?
We'll be at Frightmare next week. Stop by Steve's table, pick up a copy of The Harvester, pick up a copy of the Terrifier graphic novel, pick up some of his art, and just if you see me hosting a panel and you want to ask some questions,
go see the Metal Man
hand up, or I don't charge for selfies. It's cool, man. But other than that, we'll see you again 2 weeks, same time, with our Frightmare wrap-up show. Yeah, for everyone here, thanks for joining in. This has been another episode of Two Severed Heads. We'll see you in 2 weeks.